everyone, welcome back to the Clueless Dad. Today we're going to unbox and set up a Panasonic TK-38 water purifier. I'm here in my new office and we have a kitchenette, and all my staff was asking me to get a bottled water machine. I said screw that, I'm going to get one of those Panasonic filters. You may remember, if you're a long-time viewer of my channel, which I'm sure you're not, but you may remember I did a Panasonic TK-AS41, which is a water purifier and ionizer. When did I do that? About 2 years ago. And I've been using that in my home, now my old home and now my new home, so I've actually set it up twice, for going on 2 years, pretty much almost 2 years. That's actually the one that we used at the maternity hospital where my kid was born, so we decided to buy one for our kid, and actually my wife uses the ionizer thing quite a bit. I never touch it because I don't really believe in ionized water, which is why for this one, especially because it's for the office, I said, okay, we're just going to get the purifier. Screw all that ionized water and alkaline water and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, this is just the passive one, so it doesn't plug in, it doesn't change the pH of the water, it just filters all the good stuff, or actually all the bad stuff that you want to take out. And so apparently this one does 13 substances, which is all the goodies. So I was going to read out all the 13 substances, but it's mostly like really bizarre chemicals, so I'll stick it up here. But the big ones are, it gets lead, it gets chloroform, it gets bromoform, I don't know, that sounds pretty bad, and it gets, I guess, 99.99% of the bacteria, and other removable matters, red rust, asbestos, mold, sediment, and it helps remove odor and taste. So here in Hong Kong, I actually looked this up, they do put fluorine in the water, so and it's chlorinated, I guess, too. So generally it's actually okay, supposedly it's okay to drink, but everybody I know actually either filters with like a Brita, or they buy bottled water, and of course bottled water is super wasteful and bad for the environment, and it's also a rip-off. So this thing, unlike the fancy alkaline one, this is actually relatively cheap. It was about a little bit over $100, maybe 110 US, 900 something Hong Kong. And I got a replacement filter, which should last maybe after next year. I'll start using it maybe, depending on how much we use this thing. And that was like $100. So it's basically you're paying for the filter, and the machine is like almost free. So anyway, it's pretty simple, very similar to the other one. So I suspect I can actually hook it up pretty fast. So the only other details on the box worth mentioning are that it could do 2.5 liters per minute. And so that is pretty good. So if you're filling up pitchers, or in this case an office, nobody wants to be sitting there like waiting to fill up a bottle or whatever. So I figured I'd get the better one. They do have the kind that are just attached to the directly to the nozzle, and the filter's all there, you know, at the top of your sink. Those ones are a lot less capacity, a lot slower. So I figured this one's worth it. So anyway, enough talking. Let's get this thing open. It's pretty simple. I actually sort of peeked before. We got the instruction book, which is unfortunately, this is like the rest of Asia export edition or whatever, so they have everything in here. So you tell me what that is. Okay, so now it's pretty much straightforward. We got the filter itself with the tube, and then we have the nozzle. This is the what, you know, basically bypasses from your sink faucet. And then we also have the little sort of output tube, which will connect up to the top here. This is where your filtered water comes from, and then they have some adapters for connecting it to the sink. And that's basically it. So it's pretty straightforward. And again, like because I've done the TK-AS41, it's exactly the same. This part's exactly the same. The tubing is basically exactly the same. This thing is a lot smaller, or I should say lighter. It's actually a little bit taller. The filter is not exactly the same itself. It uses a different part number, so I'm guessing it's similar, and it looks very similar, but not exactly. But yeah, here we are with the info on it. Actually, I should say this is the TK-38MRF. I don't know what MRF stands for. Other than that, nothing much else to talk about. Yeah, this is what connects to the sink, so you can't go too far from the sink. But then again, you know, this thing's going to be spitting water out, so you pretty much want to be near to the faucet anyway. The base swivels, and you can actually move where the hose comes out. So I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter since it pivots, but you want to have this, obviously pointed towards the faucet. And if you twist it enough, I guess this is how it opens. Let me do it. So you can see there's your filter. And so this does look very similar to the alkaline one, but I guess this one's bigger if I can recall correctly, because I've taken that one out once in a while and it's not nearly this big. So if I remember correctly from that one, when you go on vacation for more than like 1 or 2 weeks, you're supposed to take it out and put it in the refrigerator, actually, just so it doesn't dry out. I'm guessing this is the same, so maybe over holiday periods or whatever, we have to take it out. But yeah, here we are. So pretty good. This thing swivels as well. I don't know if it comes out. The only other sort of thing worth noting is this. So this is the indicator to tell you when your filter is basically full. And as you can see, I guess it can turn from green or blue or whatever that is to red. And so you can actually see it rocking back and forth in here. There it is, yeah. So apparently if it's all red or mostly red, it's time to change your filter. And I think that's is basically just like a float. And so as water's coming out, if the pressure is too low, it means your filter's clogged up. So it's not as fancy on the TK-38MRF. It actually has like a light up thing, and when you reach 3 bars, it means it's time to change it. I've actually had that thing, like I said, for 2 years, and we haven't even used up the filter yet. And since it hasn't told us that it's used up the filter, I guess it's actually okay. So I would say, unless you're really, really using this thing a lot, you could probably get even more than 1 year out of it. If I recall correctly from the instructions, and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but basically the filter should last 12,000 liters, which is 3,000 gallons, give or take. And that's based on you using, I think it was like 30 liters a day for like an entire year. So given my experience with the TK-38MRF, which said something similar, we've been using it for 2 years with a family of basically 2 adults and a kid, plus in-laws visiting and stuff like that. And the filter still hasn't been used up. The indicator hasn't turned on. So so you can actually get even more life out of it if you're not super using this thing up. We have something like 16 people in this office, but we're only here like 8 hours a day. And I don't know about you, but I don't drink that much water in a day. So we'll see how long this thing lasts. I guess it will probably be closer to a year and less than 2 years. So anyway, let's hook this up. I pretty much don't even need to refer to this because I've already done it before and I did skim through it beforehand. So I'm just going to go straight into it. Okay, so here we are. Let's start with the bypass. So you just want to get in here and get this tape off of this part, which is basically in there, I guess, to keep the O-ring, the rubber, black rubber O-ring inside of here. Okay, yeah, so you want to not lose that. Very important. Okay, and so which adapter you use depends on the type of faucet nozzle that you have. And so basically you have a couple options, depending on if your faucet has an aerator that's like an innie or an outie, or if it has like a flange. So if it has a flange, you can use this. If it has kind of a innie, meaning like you screw into it, you use this one. And so this basically 1/2 screws on under here, and the other half screws into your faucet. And the other option is you just use this one to screw around the outside. So let's take a look at our faucet. Actually, I've already loosened it, but basically just take a big enough wrench. Make sure that you have a big enough one. It should have a flat on it. So mine has it's basically round except for 2 notches on the side which are flat. So I think this is like 19 millimeters or something like that. So just get your wrench that's big enough, and it shouldn't take too much to get it out. You're basically going to have some water dripping out there one way or another. So this is the aerator from the sink, and here is the adapter, and these are the same size. So basically this is what I'm going to screw in there. This other side can screw into this adapter piece. So get that tight enough so it's not going to leak. One of the problems is, and I had this on my other one, since this is only plastic, you can't really go at it with like a wrench, because if you do, basically you have to use your fingers. If you try to do this with a wrench, it will just tear this up. So just get it finger tight. And so what happens is basically this goes onto here, and then this one, after this is screwed in to the sink, this comes down over the faucet and then screws in, and then basically that tightens it. So I hope that's clear enough. Let me show you guys in action. Pretty simple. Okay, so the first step is to take this top ring, put it on the faucet, and then screw this guy in nice and gently. Make sure that the threads are in there correctly, and you want to get it tight enough without breaking anything, and then see if we can get it to not leak. So I'll just hand tighten it, not going too crazy. And the reason why you want to put this on first is because it stops here because of that lip. So I hope you guys can see that. Okay, and so here's our bypass, and I'm going to unscrew this because this is where the hose is going to go in. I'm going to just put it on first without the hose, and as you can see, this rubber part just fits right in there on the bottom, and then this thing goes and screws down. So it's actually pretty straightforward. And so let's try it. So this has a selector, if you haven't seen it. Basically it's either bypassed or not bypassed, and it can, when it's not bypassing, when it's not sending the water to the filter, it can either come out as a straight shot or as a shower. So let's turn on the sink and see. So here's our shower. Here's our not shower. And if I do bypass, it's going to shoot out the back here. So let's turn it really, really low and try that. And yeah, there you can see it. Now it's coming out the back. One thing to note is that this thing is made to filter like sort of room temperature water or normal water or cold water. It's not really made for at least very hot water. So they mentioned that the max temperature you should use for the filtering is 35 degrees Celsius, which is what? That's like 90 something Fahrenheit. And not over 100. And then even for the bypass, it's not made for like boiling hot water. So I think it's up to 80 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot. It's like, I don't know, what is that? That's like 150 or something in Fahrenheit. So that would be hotter than you'd want to use even in like a bathtub or anything. Be scaldingly hot. So it's okay in like normal human temperatures, but don't try to put boiling water through this thing because it'll melt the plastic or make the O-rings gum up or something. So anyway, so as you can see, it's working. Here we are. Not so bad. Okay, so let's get this guy hooked up, and this is pretty straightforward. So same thing, you want to put this collar thing down the tube. You want to make sure that this thing gets all the way up on this nub. So just shove it in. So then, yeah, get it in there and screw the ring all the way down. And again, use your finger strength. Don't use a wrench because you're going to break it. So hopefully, if you get this thing in, and I have had trouble with this in the past, like if you crank the sink all the way at a full blast, sometimes these things will leak. So you just got to kind of be careful about turning the water on too high. Okay, so I think that's pretty much as tight as I want to get by hand. You want to make sure that this is relatively straight. Obviously it's better before you screw it on, but you could still obviously adjust it like this if you wanted to get it coiled around a certain way. It comes with this sort of reusable twist tie, zip tie thing, and we'll put the twist tie right here. Just for now, I might adjust it later. Okay, and last but not least, we want to stick this, which is our output tube, and it just, I think, clicks in with that O-ring. So let's just get that in there, and I guess that's it. So okay, so we got water, cold water coming out, and let's switch it on. And now, because this is the first time it's been used, it's going to apparently froth and whatnot. Okay, and as I warned, it does leak, so I do have to come in and hand tighten this. And now it actually gets annoying. I've had this problem with the other one because now there's water sprayed everywhere. My hands are all wet, so you might want to wipe it down when you're trying to get it really tight in there. So anyway, I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so that's basically it for the installation of the Panasonic TK-38MRF. Not too bad. Should only take you maybe 20 minutes at most. Like I said, the tricky part is to make sure that that bypass gets a good seat on there, and it might take a little strain on your hands just to hand tighten it on there enough so that it doesn't leak, but as you can see, I got it on the second try, so not too bad. One thing I forgot to mention, on my alkaline one, the one that's like plugged in, it beeps and tells you when the water is safe to drink. You have to run it for a few seconds, especially if it's been sitting for a while, to get the correct clean water and also the correct pH for that one. This one is a lot simpler. It's basically passive. There's no battery in there. There's no beeping. So it just says in the instructions, like at the beginning of each day, let it run for like 15 seconds before you start drinking the water. So basically, it has to sort of purge whatever junk is in there from the day before. So it's actually pretty simple. I'm just going to tell all my staff, like, let it run for 5 or 10 seconds before you start drinking it. If you have it sitting longer, I think you should run it for, like it says, like to run it for a few minutes. Since this is brand new, I'm going to let it run for about 5 minutes at least, and then I'll let my staff test it out tomorrow to see if it tastes good. Anyway, just joking if you guys are watching. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Definitely check out the video I did for the TK-AS41. That model is 2 years old. I think they've discontinued it, at least in some markets. They have a newer version, which is probably a similar part number, maybe the 42 or the 43 or something. And I think it's basically the same functionality, just a new, cooler design shell. So, still useful to check that out. And I think the setup is very similar to this and to the previous one. So, check out our other videos. Consider subscribing. Give us a thumbs up. Yada, yada, yada. See you next time here on The Clueless Dad. Bye. Literally, that could save you 15-20 minutes right there.